we don't really have anyone specifically addressing the liver and gallbladder as it relates to menopause. And I'd love for you to talk to us about right how it works, why it's important to focus in on those organs, and how you help them function properly.
Yeah. So if you think about how kind of, the basic headline news of kind of how we help people is we help the good things get in, right? The nutrients get digested, absorbed, assimilated, the oxygen get to the different parts of the body, the blood flow. We really want the good things to get to the cells, and then we want the bad things to get out, including like metabolic waste and natural processes. And these two areas are kind of where we have bottlenecks. Because if you think about the garbage leaving the body, it goes from the cell to the fascia, which surrounds the cell, to the lymph, which can become stagnant, to the blood, to then the liver, then the gallbladder, then the gut, then the toilet. At any point in this system, things can get to be a bottleneck. Think about like traffic, I'm sure in your, wherever you live, there are certain areas that are always bottlenecks. I live in Seattle, and sometimes driving, if you want to drive to Portland, there's a city, Tacoma, you're always going to have traffic. What does that mean? That means there's traffic in Tacoma, but it backs up, and it could back up 1 mile, it could back up 20 miles, and it just delays it. So same thing with your body. If your liver and gallbladder are congested, there's a bottleneck there, and what's draining down cannot get out. So the more you can really help, open up the drainage system and support the bad things leaving the body, the easier it will be to feel better. And so with oils, the way I do that, like the kind of, there are a couple, the adrenals are in charge of the hormones. What's upstream of the adrenals? Your hypothalamus, pituitary adrenal axis. So I have an oil called hypothalamus that I've been finding to be amazing for hormonal balance. I used it back in the day. There was a time when I used to get really crazy period cramps, like to the point where I would take 4 Advil at a time and not go to class because I couldn't move. And when I started fixing my adrenals and my hypothalamus, it's a blend that we put right here. All of a sudden, that was actually how I knew I was getting my period. I'd have cramps and be like, oh, guess what's coming? So I was always prepared. I always had my tampon ready in my purse. But when I started fixing that, I didn't have cramps anymore. And so there would be times when I would be like, oh God, I started getting the period tracker because I'm like, I don't have that as my warning system. So that's been a fabulous blend for menopause because it kind of helps organize the hormonal signals. And it's just, I just put it right here. I just do it twice a day, but you can do it a lot more if you're very dysregulated. Another one of the kind of top-down indicators is your parasympathetic nervous system. So, your body's designed to keep you alive, right? We're wired for survival. And the key to survival is kind of your autonomic nervous system, which controls your automatic functions, your breathing, your heart rate, blood flow to the arms and the legs. And so when danger is sensed, and this could be, a rabid dog that's chasing you, or it could be some kind of anticipatory danger. Gosh, it might snow tomorrow and I might have to drive. That's really stressful. Oh gosh, my boss isn't happy. I might get fired. All of those things, or some kind of historic stressor, like, wow, I grew up in a really, challenging childhood home, and I'm remembering that, and that's causing me to surge. When you think there's any kind of danger, you prioritize survival. So your sympathetic nervous system kind of kicks in and allocates resources for survival. Your blood goes to your arms and your legs and away from your core digestion, detoxification. And then when the danger passes, you kind of shift back into healing gear. And what's interesting is the toggle, the gear shift between danger, fight and flight, and survival, regenerate, and heal is the longest nerve in your body that most people have never heard of. It's your vagus nerve, cranial nerve number 10. I'm going to give you a quick physiology lesson because that's important for understanding how you balance it. So it starts back of the head, splits, is most accessible on both sides behind your earlobe. And that innervates your throat, your heart, your lungs, every organ of digestion and detoxification, your gallbladder as well. And so there are different ways to stimulate it. When I first started playing with oils, I knew that the vagus nerve was most accessible right here. And I knew that there were kind of acupuncture needles and all these things that people were doing to activate your parasympathetic nervous system through this topical point. And originally I thought, I was thinking like, oh, relax. It should be something relaxing like lavender or chamomile. And that didn't work very well. You can measure kind of your parasympathetic tone by wearing an Oura ring or other things to kind of capture heart rate variability. So I started doing more research and came across this New York neuroscientist named Kevin Tracy, who was surgically implanting a pacemaker-like device right there and using it to stimulate, not sedate, but stimulate this nerve. And that was activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And this device has been approved by the FDA for epilepsy, migraines, and depression. So I started playing with a stimulatory blend. Some oils are perceived as stimulatory. And what that means, it tends to be the hot oils. So like oregano or thyme or clove or cinnamon, you put a little bit on your skin and it looks red or it feels hot. But you can use these stimulatory oils, which are fat soluble and go right through the skin, to kind of stimulate the nerve the same way an electric device would. And if you blend it with another oil, like I picked clove because clove is not stimulatory, it's calming, and it has very small molecules. So it's like a 2-second experience, right here. And that basically just turns on your ability to detoxify. All of a sudden, it shifts you out of danger. It's safe to let go of the garbage, including the old recirculating estrogen. And that's kind of my step one that I really start with. And I can get into more detail about some of the other steps. But the other thing that I do, I created, so it's really interesting. So the garbage goes from the cell to the fascia. The fascia is kind of this web that surrounds all of the cells and holds you in place structurally. But if we've ever been through something stressful, like you kind of brace for impact, right? Like, something bad's happening. You're like, all right, I got this. And you do everything and whatever, you're fine. And you recover, but you sometimes still hold on to that brace. So like your shoulders might be a little tighter. Maybe your posture isn't great. And what we haven't realized is that we need to unpack the fascia as well. And there's a lot of great like manual therapy, it's kind of like time and pressure, but we also actually put this in a roller bottle to make it easier to apply. I kind of apply this all over the place. Like I have found that when things get stuck, even like liver and gallbladder congestion, it's kind of like, oh gosh, what's the thing when your door doesn't shut and you get like the WD-40, it just helps grease the wheels so that everything flows better. But so then it goes into the lymph, which does not have a pump like the heart. So we use some oils to help move the lymph. And, the lymph drains, it's really interesting. 75% of it is on the left side. The right side is really just kind of the top quadrant of your body. So if you're listening, go ahead and kind of feel, if there's any tenderness, if you touch these clavicle points or under the armpits, if you kind of press there, if there's any tenderness. For anyone that has kind of, I don't even know what to call it, but like armpit, flabbius, if you have an arm puff, not a pit, that's an indication that it's not draining. And especially if that's congested on the right side, that's a pretty good indication that that backup is happening. The right side is where your liver and your gallbladder are. So let's walk this through. Your liver and your gallbladder are congested. There's a traffic jam there. And so whatever's trying to drain upstream, like your lymph, is struggling. And so that's just okay, maybe this is something, it's not, don't worry, you're not going to die. This is not a terrible thing. It's just a little indication of like, oh, this is an area where I might be able to give a little bit more attention. And so like the lymph oil, especially like before bed, under your armpits, because you do a lot of draining at night. And then the liver and the gallbladder, we have oils that you can topically apply. You can combine them. Castor oil is an amazing remedy for helping the liver kind of anti-inflame and alleviate toxins. And then you can also support the gallbladder. We have a gallbladder oil. And I love to tell people to take some kind of binder, like charcoal or chlorella or whatever you love, because what tends to happen is, think of Sisyphus, right? He's pushed that rock all the way up the hill and then it rolls back down. So your body has gotten the toxins all the way to almost the finish line. They're now in the gut. Gallbladder drains the bile into the gut, and sometimes they get reabsorbed. So taking a binder is a great way to make sure that they actually leave. They kind of latch on and escort them out of the body. So that was a lot. If you want to kind of unpack that and ask questions, go for it.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.